and welcome back to episode 2 for Beginning Percussion. Today we're going to talk about exactly what is music. And so the first thing we want to do is look at the definition of music. So on the board, I'm going to write music is, and then we've got these two blanks here that we want to fill in. So the big question right now is, music is blank blank. So what do you think those two words are? All right, do you have any answers yet? Well, I think I know one of the words. Music is blank sound. So music is blank sound. So now the big question is, what's the first blank? Well, some people will say music is loud sound, but music can be soft. Some people say music is good sound. Well, what's good and what's bad, that depends on what kind of music you like or don't like. Music can be any sound. Well, no, that's not true, because if you just hear a noise somewhere, that doesn't make that music, that just makes it a sound. So what we're looking for is music is organized sound. So music is organized sound. So that means that whatever sound you're hearing, as long as everything in that music was done on purpose, it has an order to it, it's organized, that makes it music. Now that can be a lot of different looking things. So for example, I could have 20 cars drive by the school, and I could tell them that on once every minute when they drive by, they're gonna honk their horn. Well, that's music, because we know how many cars are driving by, they know what to do, and they know when to do it. Now that's weird music, but it still counts as music. If the cars were just driving by and we were outside and somebody just honked one time, that's not music. But if they knew when to drive by, when to honk, and to how long to honk for, that counts as music because it's organized. So with that in mind, let's figure out how music is organized. The first thing I want you to do is draw 5 lines across your paper. And when you do that, go ahead and trace over the line on the paper so it'll make them nice and neat and evenly spaced out. Okay, after you draw those 5 lines, that's still not very organized. It's just 5 lines. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to number the lines going from the bottom to the top. So we numbered our lines going up. And then we're going to number the spaces that we created by the 5 lines. So if you look, the 5 lines created 4 spaces. And it's now more organized, because if I asked you to touch line 4, well, we would all touch the same line because all the lines now have a name. And these 5 lines and 4 spaces, that's called the staff. And so that's the name of these 5 lines and these 4 spaces. And the staff is what we use to write our music on. Okay, next thing we're going to do to make this more organized is we're going to take and draw lines up and down on the staff, and that way we can create sections out of the staff and it makes it look even more organized. And the lines that we used to draw these sections is called a bar line. And so each of these would be a bar line. And any of these, there's a bar line there. Now here, this bar line is a little different because it has two. So we just call that a double bar line. And now when you look at these sections, we can name what those sections are called. And so that section we created by using a bar line is called a measure. And when you look at your staff, it is now becoming very organized because we have a name for the lines and the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. We now have divided into sections. We know what to call the lines that we use to divide the sections, and we know what these sections are called. So our 5 lines are now a lot more organized, which means we're more ready to start writing music onto our staff. All right, now that we have our more organized staff, we want to start putting notes onto the staff. And so the first thing we need to do is learn what our notes look like. Well, the first note that we're going to talk about today is the quarter note. And so the quarter note is made up of 2 parts. We have what's called the note head, and we have here what's called the stem. Now, only the quarter note looks like this, a solid note head with 1 stem. Other notes will have either an open note head with a stem or just an open note head, okay, or maybe a filled in note head with a stem and then some extra going on. And so we're going to get to all those notes very soon. But for today, we're going to focus on just this note here. And the name of this note that we're going to focus on today is called the quarter note. And the reason that we want to focus on the quarter note today is because the quarter note is equal to 1 beat. And since we already covered tempo, beat, foot tap, and those things, the quarter note then will also be what we would say is 1 foot tap. And so because the quarter note equals 1, then it's the note we're going to start with and learn all the other notes from there. Well, in music, we have some numbers that go at the beginning of a line, and those numbers tell us how we're allowed to organize the beat. And the name of these numbers is the time signature. And the time signature organizes the beat. And that's important because today we're talking about music is organized sound. And so the time signature organizes the beat because it tells us how many beats have to be in one measure. So this top number here tells you how many beats per measure. So if this top number is 4, then we have 4 beats in one measure. So I can take and draw 4 quarter notes and put them all in this measure. Because the top number is 4, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. So 4 beats in that measure because the top number tells me it's 4 beats per measure. Now the bottom number tells me something completely different, but we're not going to worry about that number for now. For now, we're just going to focus on the top number because that's enough for today. In music, every time we have a note tells us to make a sound. Also, in music, for every note that we have an equal rest. And so this rest tells us how long to make silence. So 1 quarter note, 1 beat of sound, is equal to 1 quarter rest, which is 1 beat of silence. So for every note that we're going to learn this year, we're also going to learn the rest that is equal to that note. So a note makes sound, a rest makes silence. Now we want to look at our measures and make sure that everything is correct compared to our time signature. So remember, our time signature, the top number tells you how many beats you must have in every measure. So in this first measure, if I count my quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, that measure is correct. So we're good. We can go on to the next one. I go to the next one. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, we only have 3. Well, to fix that, I have to add another beat. That beat can be a quarter note or a quarter rest. Well, we're going to use a quarter rest. And there's beat 4. Now, because it's a quarter rest, notice that I put the number in parentheses. So we always write the number of a rest in parentheses, and then a number of a note is not in parentheses. When we look at this last measure and I count the quarter notes, 1, 2, I only see 2 quarter notes. Well, my time signature tells me that I have to have 4 quarter notes or 4 beats in that measure. So if I really want to keep my 2 quarter notes, I have to change the time signature to 2-4, because the top number tells me I should have 2 beats in that measure. And so by changing it to 2-4, this measure is now okay. So today we worked on the big question of what is music and how do we organize it. So remember, music is organized sound. So we went through all the different ways that we can organize music, from the staff to measures to bar lines to time signatures. So we're going to take all that great information along with our first note, the quarter note, and in the next video we're going to look at how to start playing quarter notes, counting them, and then reading them in music.